Alright, so today in Sewing Tips, I'll be showing you the way that I apply bias bindings to corners and curves. Please note, I am not a professional, so I'm pretty sure there are many other ways in which you can do this, but this is the way that I do it, so I hope that it can help you in some way. Alright, so you can see my corner here. I'm stitching down my bias binding. I'm gonna stitch up to like about an inch, 2 inches away from the corner in question. Then I'm pulling the bias binding in the direction I want it to go and nipping it and folding it, right, down on the corner. And I'm doing that on one side, and then I'm going to be doing the same thing on the reverse side just to make sure that it's nice and equal. Alright, so once you've ensured that the corner is folded and nipped equally on both sides, you continue sewing and you get the needle right in the corner, right where you folded it. You make sure that you get the needle in right there, and then you raise up your presser foot and pivot your fabric across and continue sewing, right? So that's essentially it, but I'll be showing it to you a couple more times so you could see better what I'm doing. All right, so again, you get your fabric, make sure that your fabric is pushed all the way into your bias binding, like in the middle of it, so that your stitches are equal on both sides, and you stitch it down. I'm coming up to a corner now. Well, you could see one of the corners that I just did. I'm coming up to another little corner, a little bend there right about now, right? So I'm stitching it down, waiting for about an inch or so away from the corner, pulling the bias binding in direction of the corner, right? And then just pinching and folding the bias binding down, right, in that angle that I want it to go. I'm doing that on one side, flipping it over and pinching and folding it down on the reverse side. Once I have that maneuvered and nice and flat the way I want it to be, I keep sewing down. And once more, we're just gonna sew and get the needle right in the corner. So right in the corner where we place that fold, we make sure the needle is in the fabric and down. And then we raise up the foot and pivot the fabric across and continue sewing. And that's essentially it. I'll be showing it to you one more time so that you can see what I'm doing properly, right? But it's basically those really, really easy steps. Again, you get your bias binding nice and equal on both sides, making sure that it's, you know, in the middle of the bias binding, and you stitch down, right? Make sure everything is nice and flat. You stitch everything down, you get to about an inch or so away from your corner. Well, that's a little less than an inch, but you get what I mean. And you place your bias binding in direction of the corner and pinch and fold, and you do that on both sides equally. Now, there's another way in which people do this. What they do is, instead of pausing the needle about an inch or two away from the corner, what they do is they stitch all the way to the corner, remove the project from the sewing machine, and then do the folding process that you see me doing here away from the machine. And then once you get it nice and folded, you put it back under the machine and continue sewing. You can do that if you want. That's not how I do it because it takes too long and I don't have that kind of time. So this is just the way that I do it. So I really and truly hope that this has been helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. So here you'll see all the corners nice and neatly sewn using the technique that I just demonstrated. And I'm going to do the whole thing now and finish this entire piece off camera so that I don't bore you with the details over and over. And then we're going to move on to the next step. The next step is ironing. Ironing is extremely important in sewing. It makes your stuff look so much neater. So once you finish sewed everything down, you make sure to steam press all your seams, all, the bias binding and everything down. All the puckering that you would have seen on any bias binding that you'd sewed before, that should go away once you steam press everything down. And you press it on both sides and make sure everything is nice and flat and neat. And that's the end of the tutorial. If you find this helpful, feel free to, leave some comments below. If you want to see more tutorials and more little tips like this in future from me, feel free to let me know. So until the next time, bye!